As my friend Joe Rogan would say, evidently fear is not a factor for you. Or is it? That's what we're going to talk about today. One of the greatest barriers to success is always fear. It's always fear-based. A lot of people say it's money or it's resources, but it's not. Truth be told, it's always fear. And you can bring all these things this narrative that you have in your head, and it always comes back to fear. Always. And what does fear stand for?
I don't remember.
False expectations appearing real.
Oh, I didn't even know that. That's not what I was thinking.
You need to read more.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
False expectations appearing real.
Okay.
Rare.
Appearing real.
False expectations appearing real.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
So years ago, obviously, when the 2008 recession hit, fear consumed everybody. Myself included, and that was part of the context of the book, Fear to Fortune.
Yep.
Now, I was in manufacturing, as a lot of people know, and it came to a point where contract after contract, the business was just falling off the cliff, right? And I didn't know how we were going to survive. I had a couple properties already in real estate, so we started buying some properties. I don't know, I think I had more. I think I had like 3 or 4 maybe. I don't know. Anyway, I had properties I was already buying, and because 2005 was fantastic. It was like, the world's on fire. You can make money doing whatever. The business was growing. Everything was easy. When there's no fear, making money is easy. But as soon as fear sets in, everything changes.
Yeah.
And when we went through that recession and the business started dropping and everything else, I went into fear mode, which obviously creates anxiety, stress, tension, all those things. And I operated that way for years, long story short, until we started building our way out of it, which was past 2010, 11-ish. And then 2012, we started entering our vertical again. But here's what I learned. If you can't learn to embrace fear and use fear as fuel, you'll never find success.
That's good.
Yeah, it's
really
truth.
Good. I know,
it's
it's
truth.
really good.
Because here's what happens. What happens when fear sets into somebody? What does it cause them to do or not do?
Not do. Yeah, it causes them to not make any steps.
You freeze up.
Yeah, you don't do anything.
You freeze up. And I can't tell you how many people I've seen, myself included, where you start retracting. There's no confidence, you lose all boldness, and you start, trying to go in protective mode. And I'm not saying, look, be wild and frivolous all the time, but I'm saying you cannot operate in that mode. Now, here's the big thing. We're people of faith, right? If you're a person of faith, fear is even more important because you can't operate in fear and faith at the same time. And if you're operating in fear mode, then basically you're saying, hey, I don't believe that the scriptures and the promises, in God's word is true. So how can you do both?
You can't. And I remember you saying that to me years ago, and it stuck with me because I think it was the airplane situation.
On the plane ride.
Yes.
There.
Yes, and I would be freaking out because of the turbulence and whatnot. But you would say that to me as, how can you be trusting God but being fearful at the same time? You can't do both. And
you can't.
No,
So
it just struck me.
an old inspiration of mine, a guy named Creflo Dollar. This goes way back.
Oh,
Do
yeah.
you remember that guy? Yeah. I guess he's still around. I don't know. Anyway, he was a preacher, and anyway, he did a lot of study on fear, and I really consumed his stuff. Gosh, 20-something years ago, probably, maybe
Yeah, it was a
30.
long
I don't
time
know.
ago.
But anyway, and he described it, and it was really good. And this is, from a biblical perspective, that fear and faith are as far as the north is from the south. They cannot operate in the same mode. But the challenge is, like on your plane ride. So let's go back to that for a minute. So, anytime we're sitting on a plane and you get a little bit of turbulence, all of a sudden Corey goes white and she's like this.
Yeah,
and I know they are. And I'm like,
I know, it's ridiculous.
What's wrong with you? I'm like, just watch the stewardess and all those people, and if they're calm, we're probably okay. If they're freaking out, we should be freaking out too. Something bad's gonna happen.
Yes.
But so and you were always worried about we're gonna die, we're gonna crash, whatever else. And I remember one time, remember what I said when we had the whole family with us?
No.
No?
I don't know.
And you're in your freak out mode?
Which time?
And I'm like, this is the best scenario ever.
Because they're all, yes, because that used to be my issue was we'd always be without the kids.
She's like, then
Yes.
the kids won't have parents and all this.
Yes.
And then, we're traveling together one
With
time and
them.
we get some turbulence. And I'm like, this is the best scenario ever because nobody's left behind. If we all die at the same time, nobody's left behind.
Yeah.
I know,
Something like
maybe
that.
it's a little twisted.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I meant.
Yes.
But the challenge is, how do you deal with fear? And in a perspective of, because most of the time we're having conversations with business owners and entrepreneurs and people who are trying to do big, bold things. And it's not just tied to them, but I coach high performers. So that often
That's
is
the
my
situation.
target or the people that I'm interacting with because I've been down that road for so long. I've gained a little bit of experience here. And you have to figure out how to take that fear and convert it to fuel. But what is interesting is the oddity here is when you fall into fear mode, you have to recognize what it is. First of all, find clarity on why you're fearful, and then use that as propulsion, which is what the saying means by turning fear into fuel.
That's good.
Because it really is powerful. If you can learn to harness your fear and recognize those moments to where it becomes a red flag to you to say, hey, what am I unclear on? What am I not trusting God with in my life, in my situation, in my business, in my marriage, whatever it may be, then when you sit down and find clarity, and how do we always find clarity?
In that quiet time.
Quiet time,
your own-
calendar time. You set blocks aside to say, I need to focus on this thing, whatever it is, which helps you find your clarity, right? And when you find clarity and you start dissecting that, so my acronym for fear is focus, expose, adapt, renew. And that's the pathway to success. And I've built that based on the journey that I've had and the fear that I've faced, and I didn't really know how to dissect it or turn it into fuel. And it took these moments of clarity to figure that out. Now I see it.
Yeah.
I would focus on it. I would expose the fear. So you need focus is what creates some clarity. Exposing it is defining exactly what it really is. Focus, expose, then adapt, which means, hey, look, you've got to do something different. You can't do what you were. You're adapting to this new situation, this new fear, this new thing. And then you renew, which means you're renewing your faith. You're stepping into something new. One of my favorite scriptures. Do you know what it is?
Romans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Romans 12:2. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind, which is part of how I came up with that acronym because it meant something to me.
Yeah, it's really good. So that's what you tell people when you're coaching them. Is that what you give them that advice to do? Is take that time and do that.
100%.
Yeah.
Fear is always wrapped around the lack of clarity. And look, are you busy day to day? Like,
Everybody's
is life busy for you?
Everyone's busy.
Yeah, everybody's busy and there's noise around us constantly, right? And you get caught in that trap.
Yep.
We all get caught in that trap, and it's just day to day. In fact, you go through the day and you're like, what did I do
happened
today?
today?
I've been busy all day. What the heck did I do? And it's because you didn't, have clarity, and we have all those things that are tugging on us and just busyness, throughout the day. When you don't make time, allocate time towards the fear, towards the challenge, towards a pressure point, or whatever it is that you're dealing with, you can't set a plan because you don't really have clarity on what it is.
Yeah.
And when you're not clear, it creates anxiety.
Yeah.
Lack of clarity creates anxiety. It's just a
For sure.
fact.
Yes.
So you set the calendar time, right? It's what I teach everybody. Set the calendar time.
Yeah.
Pull yourself aside, and you got one task.
Yeah.
It's to figure out what you're fearful of, and to say, hey, what am I really scared of? What really concerns me here? And you write those down. And then once you've defined what they are, then you say, okay, what 3 things could I do, or what would be my desirable outcome? If I had my choice to say, didn't matter if it happens or not, but if I were to say the best outcome ever, what would that be? And then you write that, and you define what that is. Then you say, okay, this is what I'd like to happen.
Yeah.
How do I make that happen?
That's good.
How do I do that? What 3 steps can I define now that would be my first action steps towards that, okay, towards making that happen? Because now I've got my clarity on what the problem is. I know what I would like to see happen out of this. What steps can I take?
So we're starting to make a plan now.
Making a plan, taking action, right? What do we know about action when you take action?
Things happen.
Things
Good
happen?
things happen, yeah.
How do you
Could be
feel?
good things. More confident. You just
More confident? What else?
I think happier.
Happy, for sure.
You just feel probably like a weight lifted too.
Less,
if you're dealing with anxiety.
Maybe less
stressed.
Stress?
Yeah, I mean,
100%.
Yeah.
All those things. So when those things come down, then what happens, and this is where it really gets exciting, because this is where you're turning fear into fuel. When all those come down, you start getting clear. And when you're clear and you've taken a few steps and it builds that confidence, what it does is it gives you more excitement to take another step. And then you wake up 6 months from now and that problem that was here is now here, and you're like, how did I ever get hung up on that? Man, I crushed that thing.
Yeah.
And maybe you didn't reach that optimum description that you said, if I could, this would be the best outcome ever. Maybe you fell somewhere in the middle. But I can almost promise you, statistically speaking, it wasn't what the fearful thought was. That's probably way down here, worst case scenario, because everybody goes to the worst case scenario, and then you allow that to whirl in your mind, and it builds and it grows because you don't have clarity.
Right, and they're in a better spot than they were
100%.
when they started. So.
If you want to break through or reach the next level, you unequivocally have to be setting time aside to find clarity on whatever the next roadblock is. My whole purpose in when I coach people now is all about breakthrough by finding clarity, because they have to learn to convert the fear into fuel. And when you do that, man, life gets
So
exciting.
important,
It gets exciting. And you start stacking wins. And when you're stacking wins, it builds your confidence.
The momentum keeps going.
The fear can't get to you the same way because you've learned how to manage it differently.
Yeah.
But if you don't, it manages you.
Right, it can take over and be overwhelming.
Totally takes over. So again, my favorite scripture, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. It takes renewal, and that is all about intention, really digging in and changing the mindset. But here's the thing, we'll end with this. So I was talking to a young couple on a Zoom call, and this was a husband-wife team, and they're trying to reach these big goals, and it's really cool. I love talking to people like that, especially younger people, because I'm like, man, there's so much, there's so much waiting for you if you really dive in. And I wish that I could have had somebody say this to me and help me understand. But the sooner you start, obviously, the sooner it is. But it doesn't mean the fear's never going to come again. The fear thoughts come at you like crazy. They're always going to come. It's just our nature. It's like a self-protective mode. And then our mind starts telling us all these stories that are not true, obviously, and keep us trapped in there. So I find that the greatest component to battle the fear is gratitude. It's always gratitude. Haven't you experienced some of that?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So we've done times where we have, like 30 days of gratitude and stuff like that. And that's what I just gave them. I'm like, hey, let's start here. 30 days of gratitude. But basically, every time a fearful thought comes into your mind, if you're a person of faith, you have to find something to be grateful for. And understand that when you go through this, if you walk through this fear state with gratitude, you're going to come out and realize later down the road how that grew you, stretched you into something new that you couldn't have ever had or experienced to break through this next level without walking that path. So when you're praying and saying, God, give me more, God, I want success, God, I want to win, help me build my business and all these things, well, it doesn't come without a little pain. And that pain is the fear. But when you embrace that fear and you learn to use that fear for fuel, man, life gets better. And you have to embrace it by knowing that there's something bigger on the other side, which is why you have to go through this tough experience or this fearful moment and get your mind straight and embrace it, because that is where the win comes from. And when you get on the other side, man, it's another whole game. It's another whole game. It's awesome. It's awesome.
So much better.
Yeah. So be encouraged. You can use fear as fuel, but it takes intention. So today, start looking at your fear and say, hey, how can I get clarity on that fear? And break it down by the acronym focus, expose, adapt, and renew. Because fear is nothing more than false expectations appearing real. They're not real. They're only